This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, but rocking a beautiful, very, very dark night Toronto background behind me because I consider that my true home. And of course, I'll be there at the end of the month for Frightmare in the Falls. So not that anybody's going to go there to see me, but I'm going to go there anyway. So, regardless, but say hello if you happen to, well, want to. Anyway, folks, here we are on October the 6th, 2024, and I have a return guest, somebody that is in the podcast world like myself, and we throw ideas back and forth. Well, mostly him to me because I'm mostly working and sleeping, but nonetheless, I made this work today. Folks, I give you the host of Splat from the Past, comedian Tommy Throwback Kovac. How do you do, Tommy?
Greg, I'm doing fantastic. I had a crazy week the last week hanging out with my dad, and then he went back home this morning, and now I'm getting ready for the week. Everything is all good in the hood.
Yeah, you mentioned it's the first time you'd seen your dad in a while. What did you guys do?
We just listened to podcasts, watch movies. I showed him Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Finally, he loved it. Just stuff like that. We're just simple guys. We didn't get out of the house or anything. But he'll be back again soon, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a fun idea,
Mhm.
just hanging out and I do that with Skittles here. Skittles over there pretending to sleep. Okay. But nonetheless, no, great to have you back and
Thank you.
yeah, and able to do this. Um, were you able to, I know we were talking, were you able to do the convention and what was it, the Sinister Creature feature?
Well, it hasn't happened yet. It's like
Oh,
another
has
week or so. And no, I haven't been able to go to any cons this year because my buddy that I usually go with, he's having personal problems. And, he wants to go to cons next year if he gets the opportunity. But this year, nah, it's been non-existent, and plus, I got other family members that have other things going on at home. But now, I would like to share with you the Elvira experience from last year because that was so fucked up. That was just not what I expected.
Yes, let's go into Elvira, aka Cassandra Peterson. You met her. I've not met her. Haven't had her on here. I think she's a difficult catch to get on here, but who knows? Maybe eventually, or maybe not. But what's your story with Elvira?
I tried to meet her every year at Palooza for years, but every time I did, the lines were so far out the door into the parking lot. It was fucking impossible to do so. So when I found the ad for Sinister Creature Con having her, I was like, this is the only opportunity I'm ever going to be able to meet her. She's just 90 minutes away or so. I gotta go. I gotta go. Now, I was aware of this plexiglass thing that was going on and stuff, even though I thought it was weird. I was like, hey, it's better than nothing. I'll just go and meet her. So, me and my buddy and his grandmother, who's not doing well, we went to the con and we were in so many fucking lines. I was like, okay, next year or for future cons, I'm gonna buy VIP passes because I cannot wait in these lines anymore. I got metal in one leg, I got arthritis in another. I can't do it anymore. This is insane. So we're waiting to get the autograph for Elvira. She's got two handlers, one young and one old, helping her behind these plexiglasses. And Everybody is just, paying, selecting what they want signed, and then meeting her. So it's my turn, and I decided to buy her memoir because I've been hearing all this acclaim about it in the last few years and what have you. So I got a copy of her book, and it was like $80. So it's my turn, and I'm just freaking nervous. I'm really scared. I just like, oh my God, I love Elvira. So so it's my turn, and I say to her, you know, hey, Cassandra, we have mutual friends. I mentioned Terry Bolo, who we know. I mentioned Tracy Newman, and I mentioned Pamela Des Barres, the greatest rock groupie of all time. She's known all these people for like 50 years and stuff. And she gives me kind of a fake, oh, that's sweet. And then she gives a hand gesture to her handler to get rid of me. And then it knocked me off my cloud. And I noticed that she wasn't starting to sign the book. And I was like, hey, wait, are you going to sign my book? And she's like, oh, is this yours? I am so sorry. And then she starts signing it. And then that was that. I was like, what the fuck was that? Right. So then I talked to some people I know at the con who work behind the scenes. My friend Miss Misery, who you still haven't done a podcast with, but should. She has a signing booth at the con, and I talked to a few other people, and they all told me the same thing. She was like an absolute diva behind the scenes, and like Miss Misery has known her 20 years, and she was not allowed to come talk to her, and she's known her for 20 years. Like there's pictures of the two of them on the internet and everything, just really really weird. I'm like, what? So I take the photo op with her, and that was awkward enough, but hey, at least I did it. But I was so turned off and shocked by this. And then the next week, she's going to another con somewhere in the Midwest, and she's posting a video of it. And in this video, there's no plexiglass, and she's hugging people, having a good time. I'm like, what the fuck happened in Sacramento? You know, I mean, was this her decision or was it the con's decision because of her age? I don't know what it was, but nevertheless, it was just really, really strange. And I don't understand why that happened. And then I'm reading her book, right? And she talks about these incidences happening to her in her life. And I'm like, yeah, she strikes me as a person who doesn't know how to admit when she's wrong and stuff. So I'm not surprised all of this happened. But I was like, oh my God, that was a big disappointment. And I met Pee Wee Herman back in 2019. He was not a disappointment, but Elvira was. And that was just really, really strange. And I'm always seeing her post going to cons, and it's never the same experience. I don't know why this happened, at our con of all places.
Wow. No, that's unfortunate because when you are set to meet somebody, you want them to be on their game
Yeah.
and want to be there, not on their phone or this and that, whether the more engaged they are, the better the experience, So
Right.
I, yeah, especially with somebody like Cassandra Peterson. So
Yeah.
no,
That was.
I never had any experience with the plexiglass. I remember the first year I did Frightmare in the Falls. Um, they had a limited amount of guests there that year
Mhm.
because we were just getting back in from COVID and you had for the most part it wasn't too bad. You had a lot of people that were wearing masks and Laura Vandervoort had a thing where would she do a picture with me, which was fine, and I could put my arm around her or whatnot, but one of us had to be wearing a mask. So I wore a mask and she's a hell of a lot better looking than me. And but then there were others that were totally cool. Like I met oh, who's I'm blanking on her name who played the woman who played Wednesday Adams who just passed.
Lisa Loring.
Yeah, Lisa Loring. I met her
Her
and
too.
yeah, she gave me her info and everything, and she passed away. So I know she mentioned she didn't have Zoom, and I'm kind of trying to work the bugs out to that, but
Yeah,
she gave me her
I
her
never,
huh?
oh, sorry. I never saw her on a podcast, so maybe she's telling the truth.
Yeah. So, but I met her and got a picture with her, and she wasn't masked up at all. She was, and then you had others like Felissa Rose was very. Of course, I've had two experiences with her. She's very hands-on, very enthusiastic. So that was 2021. People were kind of sticking their toe in the water with regards to it, but I could see who was cautious and who wasn't. But I didn't see any plexiglass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, like I know, like for example, people have asked me about, Kimberly Beck wearing a mask last year, but Kimberly Beck was only wearing a mask because she had a cold, so she just didn't want to spread it. So I understand that had nothing to do with uh the pandemic or anything like that. So, but nevertheless, it was a fun weekend, and but I've never experienced the plexiglass. I think that would be kind of weird, I think. So,
It was weird, you know. I mean, unless I really, really like somebody, I'll probably do it again. But for the most part, nah, it's not worth it. And I'm sure a lot of people won't be doing it in the future unless another pandemic happens again, you know.
I don't know. A lot of it depends. A lot of it depends on the person and their thoughts towards it. So, like, I don't think it's going to be that way when I go to Frightmare in the Falls this fall, but a lot of it depends. It's a case by case basis. So, and then you get the odd few that do the conventions behind a curtain,
I,
and yeah, I never got those. I did a couple of those. One that comes immediately to mind is Carrie Albus, whom I got a nice picture with, and got my brother an autograph picture, and the picture was fine. He didn't want to be touched, which was fine, but we still did a nice picture. Um, so all's good as far as that goes. But
yeah, I remember at my first convention, Christopher Lloyd was one of those behind the curtain guys. And when he came out from under that curtain, I saw him from a distance. He is much taller in person than he is on screen. I mean, he is towering, that guy. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but nonetheless, I've done one convention this year, and I got one coming up, and I hope to do a couple next year, but it's as I posted on Facebook yesterday, I think I'm heading to an 80-hour a week workload between two jobs. So, and I kind of need to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, get that out of the way, make that money.
Well, I'm constantly exhausted. So when I do get to sleep, I take it. But either way, I try to go to the movies every week when I can, if I can. And I'm not even going to do my live show down at the station tonight. So I'm fine with that. Uh, but either way, um, you was talking to me about uh, interviews this year, and uh, last year I did 104. You're number 61 this year. I haven't had as many this year due to work. Uh, but I'm still doing these. it's just I got a lot in the pike, so it's not like I don't have anything to share online. But you've done a lot this year, and I was wondering if you would talk about. We'll start with this. What was some of the most anticipated, most surprising, most fun guests that you had this year?
Well, let's see. There's people that you connected me with. Like just recently, I had Kenna McEnroe on. She was awesome. Uh, Tammy Cates earlier in the year. Then there's people like I just had Betsy Broussard, who was the first video store customer and Clerks on. She and Kevin had known each other since like eighth grade, and they're still close to this day. And she was just so nice to me, and she appreciated the fact that I was such a fan of his work. She told me that when he first started and he wrote this script for Clerks, she was worried about him. She was worried he was going to be canceled back in 1994 because it was so dirty. She was terrified for him. But there was her. There's Carol Diamis from The Secret Garden. Or no, The Magic Garden. You saw her at Chiller, but you didn't talk to her. You told me. I'm gonna reach out to the other one after Halloween season. I did already, but she didn't respond. The punk legend Alice Bagg was fantastic. Oh my God, she was game to talk about anything, and she was just so much fun. Lucy Dreyer, who you've had on, was great recently this summer. Ileana Douglas, even though I think I kind of annoyed her when I brought up stuff that was already written in her previous book, because I'm such a nerd. But all in all, those were some of the best. I haven't had a whole lot of bad ones this year, and this is a first, by the way, because every year I have at least two or three really bad ones. But this year, for the most part, it's been good. There's one I was disappointed by, though. There's an actress. She was on TV in the 70s and early mid 80s. Her name's Carol Jones, and she was in The Possession, that TV horror movie with PJ Souls, which was kind of a Carrie ripoff. Like PJ had already done Carrie, and then she's in a TV movie ripoff of it called The Possession. And we're scheduled to do the interview at 6 o'clock at night, and we're both on the same time zone. And right when she starts at 6, she's like, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. Can we do this like at 8?" And by this point, I'm already tired. I'm already hungry. My brother came home with Mountain Mike's pizza, and I'm like, okay, okay. So I wait like 2 more hours or whatever. Now, when you hear this interview for 37 minutes or 36 minutes, somewhere around there, it is just funny, interesting. We're obviously both tired. It's the end of the night, but we're like talking minutia and little details and just having a good time. Then something weird happens. One of her grandkids comes into the room and says something in gibberish, and she's like, "Oh, I have to go now." And I'm like, "Really? You can't do 5 more minutes?" And she's like, "No, I have to go." And she said very firmly, like she had no qualms about it. It was really weird all of a sudden. And I said to her, "Well, okay, even though we can't talk about the Greatest American Hero episodes you did, I love that show and I loved your appearances on it." And she's like, "Thank you. Yes, that was a lot of fun." And then she just signed off with like absolutely no regard. It was really, really strange. It was really strange. So that was a disappointing interview. But for like 36 minutes, it's just really fun. But then it just ended really disappointing.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of disappointing ones. I've had a few here and there. I think this year, probably the one that stands out to me that was awkward was, well, cheapers. Again, I'm blanking on names. Um, Walking Tall, Kill Bill to,
The Bo Svensson one that we've talked about
oh, Bo
at
Swinson, yes.
yeah, that you and I have talked about at length. Yeah, and then I find those other interviews, and it's like that's his MO. That's what he does to guys. But the other guys, they stood up to him and they went over 90 minutes or 2 hours. I'm like, man, I would just fucking hang up on the guy and not release it.
Yeah, it was very awkward. I had this really great interview planned out for him. And I have no issue somebody asking me questions about who I am and where I'm from and what I do and this and that. I got no problems, no qualms with that at all. But when you start hijacking the interview and start making it about me, it's going to take away from the enjoyment of listeners. But um, so I didn't get to dive into anything I really wanted to talk to him about, and it was not a long interview. But I don't know whether there's anything going on with him medically or anything like that. But I've heard from at least three other people from that convention that were in and around him that it was the same with them, and they were sitting right there chatting with them, and it was uh, it was a bit off. So I don't hold it against them. It is what it is, you know. The person that connected me with them was very polite, but I'm glad I got the interview, but I don't think a lot of listeners are going to get a whole lot out of it. They're just going to hear about me, I guess. But
You just exposed him for who he is. And when I listened to those interviews, once they got him talking and telling stories, I don't know, he just comes off as a guy who hates Hollywood and he's bitter about it. So maybe you dodged a bullet there.
maybe, you know. So, I mean, he's not the worst interview I've done,
Yeah.
but uh, either way, I'm glad that I was able to do it. So, it is what it is. I had fun at Chiller. I don't know when or if I'll be doing another one in the States again. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, just going through immigration and this and that, and that was a that was a tiring process, just to get there to the event and be able to do this. So, but I have fun at it. So they had a great guest list, and I guess um, this fall they got another great guest list. So so but yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
getting
was
to the
looking.
point
Go
where
ahead.
travel's a hard thing. So
Yeah, I was looking at the Mustard Palooza lineup, and I haven't been to Mustard Palooza in 5 years. Uh, Paul Williams was scheduled for the 50th anniversary of Phantom of the Paradise, and he canceled. And I'm baffled as to why he canceled. He was the only one from the movie scheduled to be there. Um, that would have been great. The Hollywood show was coming up in Burbank. Fuck, I wanted to go to meet Gina Shock, but my buddy's plans, prevents it. I'm the one who got her into the Hollywood show and some of the other conventions after I interviewed her the first time and stuff. And I feel like I owe it to her to go, but just the timing has been really fucked up. And plus, she has a habit of promoting stuff at last minute on her fan page, and I'm just like, God, she needs to promote it like from the get-go, from the moment it's booked. I mean, yeah, they're going to send the promotion materials for her and the flyers and what have you, but just as long as she starts promoting it right away, it's better. But yeah, I missed out on that one. I missed out on a few others the last few years of meeting her, but she's been to ChillerCon as well.
yeah, Chiller was my first in the States. And like I said, the 2 hour wait in immigration, um, like I'm so used to getting out the plane in Toronto and just going about and going about my day, you know. Um, the immigration thing threw me off. I did that, and then not knowing where I'm supposed to go, I took a cab there, and that ended up costing me $83. So I was like, what can you do, you know? And so once I got there, it was fun. Uh, I wish I could have got to spend a little more time with Lisa while I was there. Because Lisa Langwa invited me, and but I do appreciate Eddie Mika, one of the promoters, because of my association with her. He gave me passes for all 3 days, which I thought was really cool, and put me in line for Shatner right there at the front of the line. So he was a great guy. So I'm not getting there was a pain in the ass. Once I was there, I was fine. And and Sybil Shepherd was doing her first convention there, and that was pretty cool too. She was my first go-to when I got there. And it's funny, I was in immigration so long, but by the time I got there, it was like after the con had started. So yeah.
Even though I've heard bad things about Sybil Shepherd, like working on sets with her, I would still go and meet her because I'm a huge Moonlighting fan. I went back and watched old episodes last month or so. Man, this show still holds up as one of the best written shows of the 80s. I mean, it's a laugh riot. All the, especially later with all the pop culture and meta references that they did, you know.
Yeah, I had a good experience with her. I could tell it was her first convention because just by her body language, she wasn't rude to anybody, but I think she was just trying to take in the atmosphere of the whole thing, like everybody's reaction to a first time doing this is different. So anyway, I get up to meet her and had a great experience with her. I know when I met her, I kind of got her going because uh do the Doubtfire face challenge. Of course, I always loved the old pie in the face joke. So I know that she's been pied 2 or 3 times. And I said to her, I said, how many times in your career? I didn't come out and say it like this, but I brought up the moonlighting thing. But I asked her how many times that she had been pied in the face because she had done it a few times. And there's a spot in the interview where she sticks her finger up and
Yeah.
she's got this amused look on her face in the picture because the handler has taken multiple pictures, but she had an amused look on her face, and she says to me, she goes, only once in moonlighting. And I said, didn't you? And I guess it was in the sitcom Sybil, have one where you were holding your head up by your hair and you just let your face drop in it. And she sticks her finger up and she goes, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So it was an amusing moment with her, and I think she loved that I brought the little detail like that up. So it was fun to meet her, and so it was interesting weekend. William Shatner was there for 4 hours on the Saturday, and um, he was the most expensive, and he looked like he had just got out of bed. And yeah, and I
Excuse me.
think yeah, kind of like he's collecting a paycheck, and he wasn't rude or anything. I was happy to have the experience, but and Lita Ford had an interesting little setup there,
You met
but
Lita Ford?
yeah, I met Lita Ford at Chiller. Yeah,
Love her.
yeah, yeah. She and now there's an example of somebody who I don't think liked to be touched, but this is what the thing is when somebody doesn't like to be touched, they find interesting ways to make the photograph interesting. And I love that. I love that. And she was one such uh, person who had interesting ways to set that up. And she had her own lighting and stuff like that set up for her too. So she was a highlight. It was fun to meet her. So, but in terms of engaging with people, William Catt really engaged with people. He reminded me a lot of John Rhys Davies
Love
because
him.
yeah, because John Rhys Davies did this too, where he would ask you a lot of questions about yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
And
what he did with me.
yeah. So I remember when I met John Rhys Davies, everybody in front of me before I got to him, he always asked him, "What do you do, sir?" And if there was something he could relate to, he really get into it and or something and whatnot. And if you haven't met John Rhys Davies, he's a wonderful guy to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. Um, although he put his arm around me and he went like that right into my side with his to get me going. He was great.
Yeah.
At that Toronto Comic Con, the one time I went, he and Corbin Burson, I think, were the two most engaging and outgoing of the guests there. Nobody was mean or rude, but those two, those were like the elevated ones, you know. Like you could tell that this wasn't just money, then they were really digging being there and they were having fun, you know.
Yeah.
But William Catt came off like that. And he would ask a lot of questions. He was very polite, very formal. And another one that really surprised me, and she wasn't even on my list to meet, but I had ended up having to meet her was I think it's Bai Ling from The Crow.
Oh, you told me about her. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Her table was beside Tara Buckman, and I was meeting Tara Buckman, and Tara was happy to see me and glad I was able to make the show. But the pictures of me and Tara, Bai Ling had taken, and because she was getting set up at the table next to her, but I looked at Bai Ling and she had this red bubble jacket on. Her hair was just pitch black, done up nicely, her makeup. And she had this like, I don't know if I'd say it was anime, but had all kinds of like figures on it, her outfit. And you could see a lot of the like the whites, the blacks, the oranges were just popping and the reds. And I was like, holy cow. And so the Saturday, I met by Ling, and she had credit card thing there, so I could, which is something I'm hoping I could control this time out. But she was another one very engaging, and there'd be multiple photos, and gradually she'd put her arms right around you, you know, and she was cool to meet. She was wonderful. And another one I got to highlight, and she was one of the favorites of people at Chiller, was Charo.
Gucci girl.
Yep.
Yep.
Charo she was totally on, and you could tell she was enjoying herself. And I know on the Chiller website, when people were asked who their favorite guests were, there was no complaints about anybody, but Charo's name probably came up more than anybody's, you know, because she was just that engaging. And there was a moment there where she took a break from her booth and she was just kind of walking along at some of the vendors and stuff. And even there, she was just really engaging, you know, and it's always nice to meet people
Yeah.
that are happy to be there, you know. It's not just, well, another convention, another dime, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Tara Buckman. I'm gonna ask her to come back on and nerd out with me. I know she lost her mom this summer, so I want to have her back on. Though I'm enjoying doing these nerd out conversations with returning guests than I am talking about a first time guest career. I don't know. They're just so much fun. It's interesting to find out what their listening and viewing choices were when they were kids. I started doing this at the end of last year. Um, some of my favorites that I've done nerd outs with this year are like Corey Haim's sister Carrie. I made her laugh a lot during this conversation because I was bringing up stuff she hadn't remembered in like years, and people like that. And there's some people that are way over the age limit that didn't listen to like previous nerd out conversations, and they're like not completely on board, but I've had them on so many times I love talking with them. There are those people. But this week coming up, Cindy Hines from The Brood will be back on for the fourth time, and we're going to nerd out. And I know that's going to be a lot of fun because she laughs a lot too, and she's Canadian, just like Carrie is, and stuff. So that's going to be fun. But I love doing the nerd out conversations.
Yeah, I haven't had Carry On yet. I got to do that, because Corey Haim's either last movie or second to last movie was shot right in the city.
Yeah, and Carrie just started doing stand up like I don't know 6 months ago, and she's been like putting advertisements of her shows on her page, and I'm like, film it. I want to see you do stand up. But yeah, she's a lot of fun, and she loves her brother. She doesn't like Corey Feldman, but she is always down to talk about her brother.
You know what? I got to do a tribute to him and because he was one of these 80s staples, I met Corey Feldman. He was expensive. And I don't want to talk ill of anybody, but he was really fucking weird.
He is. He did a podcast recently. It was a '90s themed podcast with Christine Taylor, who was Ben Stiller's wife, and this other guy that she worked with on some series back in the '90s. They're the two hosts, right? And they have Corey Feldman on, and he's promoting something new and stuff. And he tells them like right at the beginning of the podcast, he wants to talk about that. He's so tired of talking about his career in the '80s and the '90s. And it was weird, like the whole interview.
Yeah. Well, I met him. I was glad to meet him, but I mean, he wasn't, he wasn't disrespectful to me or anything like that.
No.
But I just know that myself and Justin Doobie, who was one of the handlers there, were because he worked with Lisa that weekend, and he and I were hanging out in the hotel lobby, and we're chatting and whatnot, and I got to know him quite a bit, and I'm going to see him again when I go to Frightmare this time too. But we're sitting there chatting, and we're looking over, and there's Corey Feldman by the lobby doors talking to, I don't know whether one of his handlers or whatnot. And we just kind of stopped talking to each other, and we're just kind of like distracted by his arm movements. And it's like it's not just regular arm movements, they're very exaggerated. And finally, the doors open, and he dashes out the door like it went one big sweep, almost like he's just gonna jump midair into the car.
Yeah.
It was just weird. And Justin and I just kind of looked at each other, and Justin was like, "That was weird," you know. And yeah, you get no
Yeah.
argument out of me on that. But
I I don't know what is up with that guy. I've heard, mixed things, and I had that experience I told you about last year about me and the female rock star, and he was banging on the door. That's all I know. But like I have no idea what's up with that guy. And, I mean, I think it was great that, he wanted to expose pedophilia in Hollywood, but then there's all these lies he was telling as well. Everyone's confirmed that the whole Corey Haim and Charlie Sheen thing was all a lie, and that Feldman had a feud with Charlie Sheen back in the late '80s over a porn star that they were both screwing or something. I don't know about it, but like it's just like, just tell the truth, man, and just leave out the freaking spite that you have for others. Scotty Schwartz, who I know you've had trouble trying to get him on your show. He's been on my show. I've heard him do podcasts where he said that, Feldman owed him money like a few times and that he knows he's never going to get from him, you know. But yeah, I don't know what's up with that guy.
Yeah, I haven't had Scotty Schwartz on yet. I'm still open for it, but nonetheless, I'm not holding my breath on Corey. I gave him my card. That probably went in the garbage, but wow,
Said
whatever.
he doesn't want to talk about the past anymore. Like I said, you know. But
Well, he best have something really cool going on now to not just maintain my curiosity, but to maintain my audience. So, as limited as my audience is, still I got an audience.
Teen Fanboy. Oh no, that's 3 years ago.
Huh?
Said he's got 13 Fanboy. Oh wait, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a copy of 13 Fanboy at our local record store. It's been there for like I don't know how long. And I forget who it was. Somebody told me that they would like me to purchase it so I could do a sequel to my last review of it, you know? But I was like,
Love
I don't
that.
want, yeah, I don't want to do it. I'm trying to let that die down if I can. I've made peace with Jason Bradford, which was mighty fine to do. Um, but And I'm really happy, that Tracy Savage and Lar Park Lincoln have never abandoned me. But the whole thing with Debbie Voorhees and Judy Aronson still to this day irks me a lot. And there's points of blame I'm issuing at both of them. And some of the stuff that Judy's been talking about in terms of the Ted White deal on Friday the 13th, the final chapter, where she's backtracking on things. I'm sorry, but for years it was the Ted White version, and even she confirmed it either on Crystal Lake Memories or the 90-minute or 2 hour video or whatever it was for Crystal Lake Men. One of them, one or the other. She confirms it. So I don't know what the deal is with her. I've never had her on. I'm not going to hold my breath on, and I really don't care. They did me wrong, whether they want to admit it or not. And obviously, nothing more has come out of it. I think they owe me an apology, but I'm never going to get it. And if they've heard any of the trash talking I've been doing since, which quite frankly, they brought on themselves. You fuck with me, you get fucked back, so to speak. Step on a snake, you're going to get bit. So,
Yeah, I'll never know why she came on my podcast. Maybe because I was persistent, but I wasn't polite or creepy, and I was polite, but I wasn't creepy. I don't know. I mean, we had a good talk, but I don't know why she had to change her story like that. I really don't.
well, I believe the Ted White version. And people could say, well, Judy was there, not you. Well, guess what? Ted White was there too, you
Mhm.
know? So, but you know what? Fine, fine. But I was happy to have Ted White on here a couple times. And
It's great. Yeah.
yeah, he was great. And probably one of the best interviews I ever did was with him because he's so much rich history there with the people he's worked with. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I wish that could have happened better. But after putting 3K into that movie, I can't believe the amount of fucking disrespect I got.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was egos on the part of the film's director. And I'm just a nobody, I guess. So the fuck it. You know,
Yeah.
I did my review of it where I backed over it with a car, my car, and I'm pretty sure Debbie Sue saw that, and I'm pretty sure Judy Aronson saw that. And I'm like, bon appetit. You asked for it. What did you expect? You know? Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I had that feud, earlier in the year with those podcasters, which I want to bring up because it just, I gotta tell you, I'm not a psychologist, but I studied psychology in my early 20s online,
Hmm.
and when you're in the midst of a covert narcissist, it can be pretty scary when you find out everything that they've done, and it's happened to me my whole life, whether it's in the bar business or a retail job or stand-up comedy, anything. And in this situation, I had heard this female podcaster on the New World Pictures podcast. And I was like, wow, I am impressed by her knowledge. I want to get her on the podcast as soon as my schedule clears. So I reach out to her in February, and 4 days go by before I get a reply. And when I do, she's given me this kind of love bombing, gaslighting, decline of like, I'm getting married soon. I'm starting another podcast. There's all this crap, blah, blah, blah. And I was not going to take that shit because I could just tell that she was full of shit. And so I took it as jealousy. So I just wrote her back saying, you don't have to be jealous of me. And why don't you listen to my podcast before, declining, which I tell a lot of people, and I don't mean it in a condescending way. I try to be nice with it. Just, listen to it. And if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it, but don't prejudge and decline. And she sends me a reply back saying, see how easy this is? I have screenshot this and send it to the New World Pictures podcast and the $2 late fee podcast. And I didn't even know she knew the $2 late fee guys. And next thing I know, I'm blocked on their pages and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? I was so mad. And then I had that incident with that one guest of mine, who shall remain nameless, but a certain filmmaker you've had on for 3.5 hours has said her name a dozen times. I had that incident. Which we don't need to go into, but I kind of think that their influence is why she won't come back on my podcast. I just think. So back in July, I decided to go listen to this female podcaster's podcast for the first time since the blow up. And she released an anniversary episode, and she was reading listener questions. And one of the questions was, "Have you ever had another podcaster be shitty to you?" And I knew from the moment that my name and my situation was brought up. It's almost like she was doing this to be spiteful and mean. Just the whole setup of it. Like it was the first question. It was not the 10th question. It was the first question. Like it was like a special setup, right? And she says, well, I had this podcaster named Tommy reach out to me. Now, before she read our email that I just described to you on air, she said that she reached out to me 2 years ago and she asked me advice on how to be a podcaster. And I said something like, want to talk about sex or something? Now, sex has always been a big part of my podcast and certainly a big part of my life, but that doesn't sound like something that I would say unless I was getting a DM from a creepy listener, like the one that you and I know who is obsessed with me and won't stop talking about me, and probably will reach out to you after this interview is announced. And I usually say stupid things like that to get rid of a creepy listener and stuff. But I don't recall ever getting a DM from a person with this name. I don't want to say her name and stuff. And then she reads the email and then she attacks my content saying, yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge. He talks about pop culture, what have you, but he's obsessed with sex. Everything is a sexual connotation with him and stuff. And he probably has a small dick. That's what she said. And I wasn't going to email her or anything and confront her, but I was pretty pissed off about this, and so it became apparent to me. Yeah, she's a mean girl, a covert narcissist type, and that's what happens sometimes. You run across those people, and I was just so fucking mad, about it. And yeah, she has two Facebook pages. Um, One that I was blocked on because I originally sent her a DM before the email. And then there's another one that she hasn't been on in over a decade. And she's like rambling on her status like a lunatic and stuff. I know she had alcoholism and what have you, but oh my God, she seemed really out there and stuff. So, I'm glad I didn't have her on, obviously, but just that hurt me really bad. I felt like I was in high school again. I've had other situations like this in the past, but not like this. I mean, she didn't say my last name and stuff, but she said my first name, and it just pissed me off.
Yeah, that would piss me off too, you know. How in the fuck would she know whether or not you had a small dick or not? Like,
I I do have one and I talk about it constantly. So she didn't like hurt my feelings on that, but just the fact that she's attacking my content and making up a story that she reached out to me 2 years ago. If it is made up, if it did happen and I don't remember it, don't you think she would have confronted me on it like head on and said, hey, this happened, 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden you're reaching out to me for a podcast, either say fuck you or apologize. Obviously she's a fucking mean girl, like in the movie Mean Girls, you
I love
know?
that movie.
Yeah. So fuck that shit.
I can't believe it's been 20 years since that movie hit theaters, and I saw that I saw that three times in the theater when that came out. I loved Mean Girls. And then when the pandemic happened, there were some special screenings here, and one was Mean Girls, and I made it a point to go see it, again. So love that movie. Wish Lindsay Lohan would get back into the zeitgeist, but because she was really freaking good. But nonetheless, it's funny. I joke a lot about myself and my situation with relationships, that I've never been able to get a girlfriend or sex eludes me, or I joke about the cuckolding thing, which I've never done, but it still fascinates me nonetheless. But I've never gone the small dick route because, to be honest, and I'm not bragging here, I'd be lying. So the stuff about relationships I could poke fun of because it's something I experienced. But
Like the thing that happened to me the other day with Reinhardt. We had an in joke, and she must have forgotten it or something because that was just weird that she allowed her husband to like fucking a screenshot my fucking words and attack me like that. But I'm not surprised. I mean, when I had her back on last year, it was the first time she had been on in 4 years. She was a different person and stuff. If you listen to those three that we did back in 2019, she was fun and everything. But when I talked to her last year, it was like an all business kind of thing. I was like, yeah, that fucking indie horror world. I don't know what the hell goes on in it. I mean, so many people who have gotten into it have changed. Her, Nasty Neil, a lot of people have changed since then.
I had Rebecca Reinhardt on once. She was pleasant. I've tried to get her on again, but haven't been able to schedule her. She said yes to coming back on. It's just scheduling, and um, I know she was in a movie called Holy Shit Man, and I had the director and star of that movie on, and I got their Blu-ray of it. a little indie horror film. I couldn't resist the title. Holy shit, man! But she's in that, and you know, so I have no insight into what's going on with her now. I didn't even know she was married, but kudos to her if she's still working, and she hasn't done steer me in a wrong direction. But it's unfortunate that uh, you and her have kind of severed ties there recently.
Yeah. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
this is why there was another horror person that I did, God, probably 7 podcasts with her from like 2018 to 21, and then she turned on me all of a sudden, and she claimed that I had commented on a picture of her and her grown daughter and stuff, and I was inappropriate. I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, you've been acting weird since the last one we did at the end of 21. It's just like, or no, she was on my anniversary show in 22. That was the last one. But even in both of those, she was starting to act different and weird. I was just like, what the fuck? And her and Ronnie Angel are very close friends and stuff. I haven't asked him, what's up with that. I think that's the reason why they're not roommates anymore. I'm just guessing, but yeah, she just completely turned on me like that. I mean, she's not in the indie horror film world, but she is a horror fan, and we've hung out whenever I go to Monster Palooza in the past. But yeah, that one ended, and I was really sad about that one because I really think her and I should have had our own podcast. She's like Robin Quivers to my Howard Stern. I mean, she just advocates the filthy and the dirty, and she has a great sense of humor. But she's got something going on, and I'm not privy to it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, who I guess I asked this some of the most difficult guests you've had this year. You did go into that, but let's segue to this. Have you gotten to do any conventions this year at all?
Nope, none at all. No. Yeah, so no conventions, no super difficult guests this year, other than that one and stuff. There have been people this year I've been disappointed by, but it's just the nature of being human. At the end of the day, with those ones and stuff, this has been a fucked year. We've lost a lot of great people that I've interviewed and you've interviewed, like Ron Thompson and Cindy Morgan, and then people that I've interviewed like Mark Dodson, what was that character's name in Return of the Jedi? Boba Fett.
Boba
Yeah,
Fett?
yeah. He was the voice of him, and he was a Gremlin's voice and stuff. I met him at a convention, and he said, "I normally don't do podcasts, but I'll do yours," and he did it. And the guy that I was trying to connect you with, who died of cancer, Don Gordon Bell from Apocalypse Now, he passed away. My friend Kristen, who was a very funny stand-up comedian, I did 5 podcasts with her, and we were going to do another, but she started getting weird on Facebook, and then she had pneumonia and she died in a coma after 30 days, and it just devastated me for a month. Like I, I wouldn't say I felt suicidal, but I lost willpower during that whole month, and then I was like, you know what, I need to take care of myself. Otherwise, I'm going to go just like her. And the next thing I know, a few other friends who are not in show business passed away in their 40s this summer. And it's just been awful. I mean, I have never thought about death and mortality as much as I have since Trump got elected. And I've seen COVID happen and just all this weird shit. Because when I had my accident in 2015, which will be 10 years this upcoming January, I thought to myself, I'm done with death because I already went through it and I've been brought back. But now, in the last few years, I think about it constantly. And I don't know if it's a healthy thing or a natural thing, but it's just on my mind a lot.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Ron Thompson. Um, I was lucky to get him a couple of times on the show before he passed.
Yeah.
I know Joe Black. He connected me with Joe Black, and Joe Black really liked working with him and worked with him in a few films. I have my funny Ron Thompson story is I had him on originally, had a
Mhm.
great interview with him, talked a lot about American pop, and some time passes, and the following year, I get this email from him saying yes to doing an interview. And it was the original email or something that I had sent him. And I'm like, does he not realize we already did one? But I didn't say that to him. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to say yes and do another interview with him. So I had him on and I told him about it, and he kind of laughed and was like, "Yeah, I was wondering that, but you know what? We did a second one, and I'm really glad in hindsight that that we had done that. He was very pleasant, and the guy from Apocalypse Now, I wasn't able to get him, and I reached out. I wish I was. That is one movie I've never gotten anybody from, and it's my favorite war movie. And I'm not a big war movie person, but I love Apocalypse Now. You know, I don't think it
Don
gets
was
any better than that.
Don was a great interview. We talked, he was also in The Boys in Company C, another war movie. He was in, oh God, what's that movie? I brought it up and he laughed because it was so bad. It was like a low budget kind of post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie from 1985. And oh God, who was the lead in it? He was like a big star overseas. But I brought it up to him and he laughed. And I gotta say, there were some profound moments in that interview. I think Don knew he was sick and that this was going to be his only opportunity to get his message out before he passed. Things got heavy. I remember I tried to ask him about being a child actor and working with Loretta Young on her show, and he didn't seem to want to talk about it and stuff. And that's why being a child actor in Los Angeles in the 1950s, it made him want to move to Manila um, to act, in a place that wasn't Hollywood. And I guess he didn't want to go to New York or anything, so he went to Manila for 20 years or something, and then he moved up to Oregon or something after that. But he acted there. But the effects of being a child actor in Los Angeles affected him as a kid, and he got out and went to Manila. I thought that was very interesting, very very interesting. He had a good story, Sadly, he never got to write a book about it. I think it would have been a good book. He was a photographer and everything.
So, what's the last convention that you got to attend?
It was that one, the Sister Creature Con, last year when I met Elvira. Yeah, so I met Kristen Baker from Friday the 13th Part 2. She was great. She was wearing the exact same Mickey Mouse T-shirt that she wore in the movie. I asked her, I said, "Is that the same one?" She's like, "Yep, had it in my closet 40 plus years. Never, I've washed it and everything, and it still fits." And Billy Zane was there. Billy Zane's kind of a dick. I'll be honest with you. He signed my Back to the Future poster though, which was great. I met Oh, Angela Gothals, Kevin McAllister's sister in Home Alone, the one who calls him laissez incompetent. Yeah, she signed it, that laissez incompetent. It was pretty funny, and she was really sweet. I had an incident though trying to get her on the podcast years ago. The the booking manager of hers is also one of the promoters of Sinister Creature Con, and he's a fucking prick. I cannot stand that guy. We don't need to go into that story, but yeah, I met them. Who else did I meet at that one? There wasn't a whole lot of people. Maybe it was just those four I met, but could have been a fifth, but I can't think offhand. But that was the last one I went to. I tried to go to a few cons this year and I just was not successful. But who knows, 25, I'll be back. I'll be back.
Yeah, um, like I said, I'm about to do my second one this year. I like to try to at least get to a couple because we don't get them here, because we're in this backwards fucking province here that everybody here hates it when I complain about, but get used to it. but I know Toronto is a happening place, and they've got lots of stuff going on. This is going to be 2 years in a row with no Horrorama, which kind of bums me out because that's personal because it's the first one I did. But I've done four of them, and four. This will be my fourth Frightmare in the Falls, um, which I've announced is unless Lisa does one again there, it'll be my last Frightmare in the Falls.
Yeah.
Which it's not the fault of the it's not the fault of the convention either. I got no complaints about the convention. It's just and I don't know whether it's just because I'm getting tired. It's just when I hit Toronto, I just like to get off the plane, get on the shuttle bus, get on the subway, uh, go to my hotel, wherever it is I need to go, and unwind. A lot of times I'll meet up with Lisa and I map out either, well, the con takes up a weekend, but map up the rest of the week. But, and that sounds very stressful, but considering the fact I'm working two jobs here and that's putting a lot of stress on me, but we kind of need it because here in 2024, we got a dip for a prime minister, so we just love to strike down anybody that's in the lower middle class. So I'm not the only one that shares that opinion, but fuck him. But it's getting hard to scrape by, and it's going to get harder to schedule guests with my upcoming schedule. So, but I'm looking forward to going to Frightmare in the Falls at the end of the month, just to get away, but I'm hoping I'm not overly tired when I go because it can take its toll on your body when you work that much. But hey, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days when I was working retail and working as a bouncer, and I had fun doing them. Though I mean, I didn't have fun, hanging out and stuff, but it was like a hang when I was working as a bouncer and stuff. And I did it for a long time, and I never took it for granted. But when I worked retail during the holiday seasons, for example, it was fucking insane. I hated working cash register and dealing with what Dante said in Clerks, backward ass fucks, you know, and stuff. I hated doing that, and I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. And there were there were there were there were days where I was working 4 or 5 days a week. I cherished the days where it was only 2 or 3, so I didn't have to do it much. So then I could go have fun because I was in my 20s. But yeah, I mean, at least you got that going, and you're gonna have fun when you go to the con and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I want to go to a con next year. There's a little Comic Con I go to every year in February, and I'm just anticipating who they're going to book. They usually book at least 2 or 3 celebrities that I'm familiar with, and that's it. They only book 2 or 3. It's not a huge con, and it's usually somebody from a 70s TV show or a cult movie or something. Although last year they splurged and they got half the cast of the Warriors, just like at the con you went to.
Yeah.
They had half the cast there, and I couldn't go. And Gina Shock from the Go Go's was there, and I was just like, fuck. I would love to have met a lot of the Warriors. I have a big, beautiful Warriors poster that's never been signed anything. I would love to get signed, but who knows? I mean, they do these like at least once or twice a year. If they come back to California, maybe I'll get my chance to meet the Warriors.
Yeah, Chiller, they had one room devoted to just the Warriors for its 45th anniversary. And the whole room, it was a big room and it was just guests from the Warriors. I
Yeah.
wish I could have met them all, but financially it was just impossible. And Dorsey Wright was the only one that had a credit card thing on him, which was I thought was funny. But
A friend requested me the other day. I thought that was kind of weird, but I accepted it. Maybe I'll say, "Hey, you want to come on the podcast?" You know.
yeah, I mean, it was friendly. I met Apache Ramos. I met David Harris, who's been on the show. Iris Klein was not there, but
Love her.
she's yeah, but she said she's supposed to be there this fall. I haven't seen her listed, but she didn't get to that one. Um, but Rob Ryder hasn't booked with me yet, but he signed a freebie for me, which he didn't have to do. Um, uh, so no, I
Dee Benry's been telling me 3 years that she's going to come on. I don't think she ever will. And when I have conversations with her on the phone, she's always asking me questions about me and just getting impersonal. And just I'm just like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need to have her on. I won't be upset if she ends up not coming on.
who is it?
Dee Benry, she's one of the girls in the gang. Beat the shit out of the guy in the apartment. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I've had 30 people from the Warriors on.
yeah.
If I can get more, I'm happy with it. So I'll
You
see.
should you should get Charlie Zucker. He was like a small, I think in the opening scene he was like in the crowd, right? And he had a couple stories about being on set when I talked to him. He's best known as Malcolm in Teen Wolf. He's the manager of the basketball team at the high school, Michael J. Fox, and stuff. And he's a stand-up comedian, and he's a funny guy. I recommend him if you want to talk to another Warriors guy.
Okay, okay. Um, but outside that, it's just a matter of managing. Like my big thing with conventions is autographs. I like that they're my story. And Frightmare in the Falls last year, I think I met 31 people, and at Chiller, I think it was 22. And it's like I've got to reel that in. I just got my credit card bill and everything taken care of, and everything is on normality with me with that right now. But it's like I come away and it's like, fuck, I'm not looking forward to the credit card bill or something like that. And
Oh, yeah.
so I got to find a way to reel that in. And when you're there all 3 days, it can be kind of hard because I'm not one to sit still for very long. So, but one of the things I might do, even though I got the VIP, if I'm there all 3 days, I'm not sure what my schedule's going to be yet. But if I'm there for all 3 days, I think rather than use my VIP to get in front of lineups, I'm just going to stand in those lineups because I'm not spending money when I'm standing in those lineups.
Funny when I go to Palooza in LA, like on Friday night, we get there like 6, 7, we leave at 10, 10:30. Saturday, we get there at 11 and we're there until 3 or 4. Then, I went to the after party a couple of times. It's not very spectacular to go to the after party at Palooza. And then on Sunday, we get there like at 11 and we just do like an hour and like get the remaining people we want signed. And then we go have lunch and then get on the road and go home.
How do you budget yourself for a convention, especially when it comes to guests? Because the willpower thing can be an issue, especially for me.
Palooza never used to put the autograph prices on their website. I think they do now. And they got photo ops now. They never had photo ops before. It was just table selfies. So what I would do is I would just like write down the names of the person that I want to meet. And I would just budget it by that way. I would get $600, $700. And, by the end of the weekend, I had like maybe 250 out of it. um, and do it like that. But if I want to go to a con like Sinister Creature Con, which usually has about up to four people that I want to meet, I just take 400 at least, and because I know I'm going to want to buy some merch while I'm there too, and I just do it like that. But it's all based on who I want to meet, and they do put the autograph prices on there, but they don't do it until the last week, which drives me crazy.
Yeah, and the prices are getting a little insane, but
Yeah.
yeah, but nonetheless, I'm going to try to at least meet my top five while I'm there. I have a I have a 10 selected, but I'm going
Uh,
to at least try to meet my five and see how it goes. But you just watch and see. You'll see a lot of pictures on Facebook of me. But I'm hoping this year I can reel it in, you know. I got a
yeah.
hotel book that's right within walking distance, so if I want to sleep a little longer, I can. You know, I got my ticket, so it's just a matter of just going right in. But
Yeah. I remember when I went to Palooza in 2017. I think the first one I went to, I claimed maybe $450. It was a very light spendage one. So most of the cast of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise was there. And I knew I wasn't going to meet Robert because he was meeting people by appointment. It was so busy because everybody wanted to meet him. So I chose not to meet him at that one. Like I'll meet him eventually, and I did the next year. But I remember I got Amanda Wiss's autograph, Lisa Wilcox, Tuesday Night. I wanted to get Ronnie Blakely's, but I was holding out for somebody else that weekend. And I just knew that if I spent money on her, I wasn't going to have probably enough to get the other person, which is sad because Ronnie's one of my favorite guests I've ever had on the podcast. And I remember I wanted to meet, God, who was it? I wanted to meet Andros, and eventually I got him on the podcast and somebody else. But yeah, I was doing light spendage that Monster Palooza, but I did get a lot of people that weekend, including that one cunt that you're going to meet at this con. Don't have to name names.
well, I might meet on this con. They're not right in my top five, but
Yeah.
yeah, somebody that you're just in love with, huh?
They used to be. Yeah. And also, I also met Lisa Loring at that one too. Now, when I saw your picture with her, she looked very unhealthy. But when I met her in 2017, she looked great, and she had a very infectious laugh that was almost like a Wicked Witch kind of a laugh.
Yeah, she was pleasant to meet. I was happy to meet her. That was another convention I spent way too much money at, but I'm glad I met her. Um, like I said, these conventions are a lot of fun to do. I make a lot of connections with them. It's just a matter of making reparations on my credit card whenever the whole thing is done, you know? So,
Have you ever met somebody that had a credit card swiper at the table?
um, I'll tell you one story is, and this has only happened once, and it was at Horrorama 2018. I met Dee Wallace, and she had a debit machine at her table, which
She
I was
does.
like,
Yeah.
I wish more guests had that. I was like, yeah. So that was pretty cool. Um, yeah, I don't know about credit card swiper, but they have this Cash App or something like that that seems to work for them. I don't have Cash App, but I guess it works for them regardless. So, when I went to Chiller, my money was running low. and there was still some people I wanted to meet. Like I took $1,000 in American money, which was more in Canadian money, so I really overspent. But there come to a point where I was seeing if people had credit card. Most people was cash only, which, what can you do? But there was a few. Dorsey Wright was the one person in the Warriors that did. But Bai Ling did. And see who else. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember she did. And it made it a lot easier. I don't know whether Ina Krupkino did or not, or whether I just paid cash with her, but she was very professional and well, I don't know.
Uh, I've done it a couple times at cons, but the one that stands out to me the most, oh my God, I had maybe $300 for Sister Creature Con back in 2018, and I was running out of cash, and I wanted to go get Timax autograph. He's the star of The Last Dragon, and his handler. I asked his handler if he by chance had like a debit card swiper or whatever, and this guy was really condescending. And I remember asking a few people that day, and they were all condescending. No, but you can get cash at the ATM. I was like, I don't have any cash on my debit, or whatever it was. Like I can only use credit or whatever. I didn't have any money that I could use, to get out of the machine. So I asked him, if he had a swiper, and he said no, you can go get cash at the ATM. So I was like, forget it. So I walk away, and then Timac got out of his seat and flagged me down and said, "Hey man, I'm so sorry. I don't know why he said that. We actually do have a swiper." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah. So come back to the table." And I paid, I don't know, $40, and I used the card, and everything was all good in the hood. We took a great selfie, but I was just like, wow, it's amazing how the handler like lied to me, and he got out of his seat to tell me otherwise. It's it's interesting.
Some handlers can be weird. Like when I was at Chiller, there was and this guy was with was with secure the Chiller promotion. She wasn't any individual handler, but I think he was also security, but this happened when I was talking to Tara Buckman, and it happened whenever I was talking to Ina Karakino. This big security guy, would try to get me to hustle it along. Number one, there was no lineup, at least at that moment. And number two, they were engaging in a conversation with me. So it's like, fuck off, go stand by the door, turn your back, put a dunce hat on your head, and piss off. Like, they were engaging in a conversation with me. I'm not holding up a line. It's like, piss off. You don't need to be condescending to me. So I didn't say anything back to him, but I could kind of get it. I think he saw me as somebody hanging around too long, but it wasn't that at all. Kina, or not Kina, Ina was having a conversation with me about the fact she does a podcast in Toronto, and about women's issues and this and that. And we got chatting about that. She engaged me about it because she was interested in the fact that I did a podcast. So we got chatting. Plus, from Canada. And Tara Buckman, of course, was very happy to see me. We were engaged in conversation. So there comes a point where it's like handlers piss off. So now Lisa had great handlers at Chiller. I wish I could have helped her. I won't get into that, but
You know that story.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But at least the people that were handling her were not only pleasant, but one of them even put an Uber app on my phone because when I told Lisa about spending $83 to get there, um, her handler said, "Let me get you the Uber app. It'll save you a lot of money just to do that." He said you could cut that rate in half. So they were pleasant, the ones that were at Lisa's table, and so, but other than that, like I didn't get into any tiffy with anybody, so it's like if somebody's engaging me in a conversation, don't go hustling me around along. It's like stop. I'm not holding up a line. So now, if
It's
there
weird.
was a line up there, I keep it brief. But I've done enough of these where I'm I'm pretty good with that. So
Let's talk about my belly button obsession. So I was
really,
7 years.
let's took a turn quick.
Oh yeah, 'cause I told you last night that I wanted
I
to
know,
talk
I
about.
know. No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was on my friend Linda Marcus Smith's podcast this summer, and we talked about it. Yeah, no, when I was like 6 years old in first grade, all the girls in my class were mean to me, and they would give me Valentines and didn't mean it. And we had a new student, this girl, her name was Elvira, coincidentally, and she came from Texas, and we became like fast friends in a great way and stuff. And we used to play doctor and show each other our belly buttons and stuff. And I remember one time she let me play with it while we were watching a film strip in class and stuff. And like she was always the girl that kind of got away and stuff. We went to junior high, and like I don't know, I missed school one day and I found out that she like tried to jump off of the school building or something, and she had to like go to 5150 or whatever and stuff. But then we went to different high schools, and like I didn't see her until MySpace when we were like 25. And I tried to like be friends with her, and I told her she started my obsession, and a mutual friend said, oh, that wasn't a good idea because it kind of freaked her out and what have you and stuff. So yeah, it's just that she's always been the girl that got away, and so whenever I see a belly button, I think of her, and that's basically where that stems from. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to it. I mean, I've always loved the the naughty enticement of it, because back in the 60s when Barbara Eden played Jeannie on I Dream of Jeannie, she couldn't show her belly button on TV because it was considered an advertisement for the breasts and the vagina. But 2 years later, Barbara Luna, and who I've interviewed, and Nichelle Nichols, they broke that barrier on Star Trek. And Gene Roddenberry saw that there's nothing to belly buttons, so he allowed it on his show against the network's wishes. And then a few years later, he did a pilot with Marriott Hartley called Genesis 2, and her character had two belly buttons because she was an alien. And if you look at them, you can't even tell which one's the real one. They both look uncannily like a real one. Yeah. And she said that her husband was turned on by it. I've heard her say that in an interview.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of people that's had belly button obsessions before, not to the extent that you have.
Mhm.
And I never judge anybody. Like I always find people's fetishes or kinks or whatever to be the psychology behind that is interesting to me. And some of it's fascinating. Uh, some of it's sick. Like I don't understand. Like I knew a girl years ago who was into cutting herself, and I that's one I can't get behind. And then there's some of them that are just downright friggin' funny. So um, I find it fascinating, especially when it comes to really strange fetishes. Like I
But,
might have
yeah.
mentioned this before, but I had interviewed a comedian, Dale Hilton, and
Oh yeah.
oh, Dale's freaking great. And his mom is right out there as well. We call her Metal Mom because she introduced Dale to a lot of the music he loves, you know. And but Dale used to drive escorts to like drive them to where they got to go and pick them up, you know. And Dale had told me, like I asked Dale, said, "Do you ever hear any strange sex stories from any of the escorts?" And he says, "Yeah, I have." And I said, "You have an interesting one to share." And he said, "Well," he said, "one of the girls come back after a night and she sit down, she kind of sighs and she goes, 'You'll never believe what this guy paid me X and X and X amount of money to do.'" And Dale said, "What?" And he says, "He paid me this amount of money, whatever it was, to beat him with raw chicken." And
Yeah.
I'm just friggin' trying to picture that. It's like that's one I never heard of. It was weird. And to hear Dale tell it, because he's a stand-up comic now, you know, to
Yeah.
hear him tell it, you know,
Frozen raw chicken.
yeah. Well, Dale's great. I've had him on a couple times, and I had him on once with his mom because he's very close with his mom. Because she she's like that cool mom who was like introduced him like to a lot of these concerts. I forget what concerts that they've gone to. Because I mean, he's not young; he's about around my age, you know.
Right.
But they have a very not just mother-son relationship, but they got a friendship relationship. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's actually pretty darn cool the stuff that she introduced him to. And it's like my parents would never have introduced me to any of that stuff,
There's a,
but
there's a there's a female sex educator. She had a podcast with her son where they talk about sex. It was called Sex with Mom. I don't like that title. I think it's kind of creepy, but
yeah.
like I like the idea of them being so open talking about it, I thought that was cool.
Well, I forget what concerts. Like I don't remember what concerts or anything, but she introduced him to like a lot of the stuff we liked from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
She introduced Dale to, if you can imagine that.
I can
So
imagine it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
I had them on together and the chemistry between them is like, you know, it's not just mother son. These two have a mutual bond over a shared interest. And I envy that because I never really had that with my folks, you know. I mean, I got along well with my folks, you know, but we were on kind of different paths in terms of interest, you know.
Yeah.
Like they liked country music, I liked rock. Dad liked westerns, I liked horror movies, you know. Um, Dad liked to go hunting and fishing, you know. Not even so much for the hunting and fishing, just hanging out with relatives and friends, just out in the woods and camp with them and do the scenery thing. He'd do that in the fall. Me, I he never got the fact that I was so into Toronto when I did. Although I had somebody tell me that towards before he passed away, he kind of got it, my fascination, you know. So, which was really cool. So I never quite had that bond. My parents used to take us to the drive-in when we were young, you know, when we had them here. And like we saw the Star Wars trilogy at the drive-in. They took us because we loved Star Wars. But you know, that was the only reason they took us. They could care less, you know. Um, they took us to see Superman 1 and 2 and Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T., you know. Um, so it's not that they hated the movies, it's just it wasn't their scene. So
Right.
the fact that Dale Hilton had this bond with his mom over heavy metal music and hard rock music, that is pretty darn cool, you know, and it's allowed them to maintain a really close bond, which, and she laughs about the fact that he used to drive escorts, you know, because he was not involved with them that way. He was just there to make sure that they got there safely and back safely, you know. But Dale was cool. I think you should reach out to him. I think you'd get along well with him. He's fucking
Possibility.
hilarious.
I mean, I had Trey Elke on when the year began, and he was funny. I had Carrie Yates on; she was fun. I'd have her
Love
back.
Carrie Yates.
And
Love Carrie Yates.
Mahoney said he's going to come on soon. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying, like I said, having these nerd out conversations with returning guests the most of anything, you know. And I'm surprised when I do a nerd out with somebody and they're not familiar with something or they weren't into something, you know, when they were young. I was like, especially in Canada. When I talk to Canadians, I'm like, "Wow, you never heard of the Star Lost? It was a Star Trek ripoff show with Coeur d'Alene." Like,
Mhm.
I'm surprised when I get that kind of a response when I'm doing a nerd out with a Canadian.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. What was the name of the? Because I got it here on Blu-ray. There was a movie that I did that Rob and I both had our names on that went through a title change. I'm trying to think what was the original uh name of that movie. Just a minute. Social Distance. Wonder if I could bring that right up here. I'm wondering. I might just a minute. Because I'll show it to you. Let's see. Okay. I got my name on this. It's called Social
Distance.
Distance. It was shot during the pandemic and it was all on screens. And it was surprisingly very engaging. Rob's an executive producer on it. And it's got Vernon Wells in it. And Vernon's not phoning it in. He's really, really doing this. And it's basically it's a thriller. And you know, you get all these peoples all engaging on the online. So it was done during the pandemic. But I was actually surprised how well this turned out. And they got Vernon Wells, and I know before the next film, I couldn't financially support the next film, but I know he got Tom Sizemore before he passed away in his next film, and but this actually turned out to be quite good. I was actually surprised.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've gone down that rabbit hole before about the indie horror scene. Horror that I've told you about that you've never met. You know, he called out recently on the Sleepaway Camp fan page group because you know he announced this documentary 6 years ago and we still haven't seen it, and I was a contributor to it, you know, and I was just like, oh, that is so freaking awesome. Someone's calling him out because, like, I don't know what it is. People don't want to call him out. I think it's because he's gay and they're like, it's not culturally appropriate, you know, or maybe because he's got so many top Hollywood clients or something. I don't know what it is, but someone had the balls to do it, and it didn't last long. It eventually got deleted, but I was freaking happy about that. Let's see if this documentary actually gets made or released, I should say.
It's I'm pretty much open to anybody, but I know I had somebody reach out to me recently, and I get so annoyed with this when people reach out to me and their they pitch their project to me like I'm an investor. And I'm like, I can't fucking do that anymore.
Right.
And it's like they're only reaching out to me for money. And I told this person I'm a podcaster. I don't invest in these. And this guy fucking blocks me. I'm like, you
Yeah.
pissant little shit.
That's what they do. Yeah, it's happened to me too. That guy Sean Phillips who was fucking doing
Yeah.
that and annoying people. He was doing it. What I would do, Greg, is I would take it as a compliment. Thank you for thinking of me that way, but I'm sorry I can't do it. I would just approach it that way.
Yeah. But I mean, there's others that have been right, like Scott Hand I've had on here a couple times, and I've never backed him on any project because I just can't. But that's okay. He's open to doing an interview, and he's happy to come on here. He's very polite, he's very professional, he's very funny. And a lot of people don't get this because I hear this. Well, it takes you so long to put them out publicly and blah blah blah. You know what? He puts his out the moment send him the link, whether it's unlisted at that time or not, and it always gets a lot of views. I don't
Yeah.
understand these other people who they can't do that. He does it. He's one person that well, the indie people I'll probably continue to have on because he's just great to engage with. Um, and I'm trying to think of some others. Hayden Newman's been great. I've had her on here 5 times, and Reunion from Hell turned out to be again way better than I thought, and I was actually impressed with her performance in the film. Which, like, when I heard that Hayden was starring in it, I was like, sounds egotistical. And I saw the movie, I was like, you know what? I wouldn't want to see the movie without Hayden in it. I was like, Hayden, you did a great job in it. It takes a lot to impress me. Um, so there's a few like that. But again, I'm kind of getting weary to it. Rob Mahoney's kind of there. I mean, he's supportive, but like myself, he works a lot and sleeps a lot. But he'll give you a good interview. He was one of the ones on the 13th fanboy hit list when that bullshit all went down. Um, Carrie Yates kind of left the scene a little bit, but I'm always open to having her on because she's just very pleasant to talk to and people like that. But there are people like I have Brett Harris on every year and Brett not only did a Doubtfire Face challenge, but I support his cycling for kids cancer that he does every year and he does all these elaborate stunts and stuff like that and does a cycle race thing and although I'm still very much connected to Scotty, I think I spend more time talking to Brett than Scotty now, which Scotty's delighted with. He said he's happy that he connected us. But there's people like that I enjoy having on here because I know that they're going to be very, very, very pleasant. I had the woman on this year that was working with Tara Buckman at Chiller, Katie Rowe Brillard, and she was working with Tara Buckman at Chiller, and she has her own coffee shop called the Screaming Bean. And she was just opening. I had her on. The Zoom. She was right there in the coffee shop. Stuff was being built up around her and stuff like that. And I look for opportunities like that, and people
Yeah.
doing. various things, and I'm pretty much open. Like I said, I had one of my former cleaning supervisors come on here just simply because she asked, you know. And I've had some local talent on, Bromwin is from here.
Yep, I loved talking to her. She was great.
I was supposed to have her back on, but I know she's been incredibly busy, but
Yeah.
that's okay. I'll have her on again at some point. But uh, I can't believe how long she and I have known each other now. But uh, Bromwin's great. But I've had a few people from right here, as much as I'm not a New Brunswick fan. This is an opportunity to get some of those people and their work out there a little bit. So I'm open to that. I'm always open to that. So, you know.
Yeah, there's one more indie horror thing I wanted to bring up. I'm trying to remember what.
Oh,
Yeah, here I am.
yeah.
The Fredheads documentary that I contributed to back in 2017. It finally came out a year and a half ago. I was disappointed by it because just like 13 Fanboy, it wasn't what we were promised. And partially it was that way because of the pandemic. It turned into a completely different documentary about the Freddy Krueger fans. They spent a good hour out of the 2.5 hours this documentary was in a conference room like state. The two girls, Paige and Deandra, who I've had on the podcast, who don't like me anymore, they in a couple of culturally appropriate Freddie fans, one gay, one black, one trans, whatever. They're like talking about Freddie and what he means to them, and all this stuff. And they're doing is just revise revisioning history of what the Freddy franchise was about. Back in the 80s, when they're making these movies, the studios are making them because they're making money off of them, right? And yeah, there was specific demographics for the horror fans and what have you, but like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 wasn't made to enable people to come out as gay. It was made to act. They haven't said this, but I just know it from watching it. That movie was made to end the franchise because they were pissed off that Wes didn't want to be involved in it. So they wrote one that they think that was going to end the franchise, but it didn't. And then they made the third one, and Wes came back and said, okay, I'll come back for the third one. But they're saying that it was like a gay propaganda sequel, to enable people to come out. No, it fucking wasn't. I'm glad that you came out because of it, but that's not the intention of the movie. So I'm glad that I see my name in the credits under special thanks, but it was not the documentary that I thought it was going to be, you know, and they don't like me because I disagreed with them on some stupid political shit that we had talked about in DM and stuff. And it's like whatever, I don't need that shit. They're just selling snake oil at this point. It seems.
You know, 13 Fanboy, I thought turned out well as far as watching it goes.
Mhm.
My issue was is I put a lot of money into it, a lot of money into it, and was never appreciated. And like I said, if people didn't want to do a suicide and depression challenge, just fucking say no, quit the fucking drama. But they made a big thing out of that, and it is what it is. I bet you right now, Debbie Sue's wishing she handled that fucking better.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing, um, when Damien Leone made Terrifier 2, he took the same methods Debbie Sue did with 13 Fanboy. What a big difference is between the successes, though. Um, Debbie Sue knew jack all about marketing her film.
Right.
And when I said they should have had it in Toronto, especially when I was going to be there for Frightmare in the Falls, we could have done something. Nope. And Carrie Yates suggested it for the UK. I don't have time to feed people's egos. And these people that are disbanded from me over my comments and actions towards that movie, I say fuck them. Those that stuck by me, and whether they don't want involved in the drama or whether they know that I'm innocent of all the bullshit, I appreciate them. But it's funny because Terrifier 2, that was funded online, and it's funny that that's got a third film coming out uh, in a week or so. So it's like, what's the difference? I think Damien Leone knows how to do this a lot better than Debbie Sue does. So there you go. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to sit here and keep harping on 13 Fanboy. I wish I could give it a rest, but it's like that could have been handled with me so much better had Debbie Sue approached me privately. But she decided, to fucking trash talk me on a forum online. And what she didn't expect is that somebody respected me enough, Orlando Rodriguez in this case, respected me enough to say, you know what? Craig's a great guy. I don't like how you guys are talking about him. Sent me the screenshot. So I was like, I had no idea. And there's some people that disbanded from me because they think that being associated with Debbie Sue is going to get them something. It's got them nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Like
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
getting rich off this podcast. I clean for a living. That's what I do.
Mhm.
But, you know, I never expect to get anything from these people, except for a great time, a great association. I think a lot of these people were looking for something a little more financially enabling. That's what I think. But hey,
Next
uh,
year, next year is the 40th anniversary of part five. I think Deborah will be coming out of the woodwork because she's probably going to do a ton of cons next year and stuff. I think that's the next time we'll see her. And who knows, maybe she'll apologize to you or maybe she'll
I doubt
remain.
it.
Yeah.
I doubt
But
it.
next year is the 40th, and I know you got Tiff coming back on with Brooke, you know. Um, I love Tiff and I love Brooke, you know, and Tiff told me that my stories are epic. All my sex stories that I tell. Her best friend Danny Dietz has been on the show twice, and oh my God, she's like Leanne Curtis. She has no boundaries, uh,
Oh yeah.
Danny, and so so Tiff will listen to those. And she's probably laughing, and she probably wouldn't admit to it, but she told me, "Man, your stories are epic."
Yeah, I got Tiffany's coming on. Actually, I heard from her yesterday. She wanted to confirm she's involved in a project called Catnip. And when she approached me to have her, the director, and her mom, Brooke Bundy, on, I was like, yeah, I think that's actually pretty cool. I love having the dynamics of having multiple people on when there's a connection, especially with her and her mom. Like even having Bob and Tom DeSimone on together was
Yep.
interesting, or even having Dale Hilton and Metal Mom on together. It's or even Leanne Curtis and her mom on. Her mom was a conductor back in the day, classical conductor, and was involved in that scene. Having those two on together was pretty interesting. And when Leanne's mom passed away, it's like, here is something for you, Um, stuff like that those are nice memories. But yeah, they're coming back on. Melanie Kinnaman has said that she's coming back on. She wants to come back on. I know she's doing some cons right now, and I definitely want to do a Zoom with her 'cause I always thought she was beautiful. But again, Tiffany and Melanie are two people that aren't buying into the whole 13 fanboy bullshit with me.
Maybe you could
So
ask her. Maybe you could ask Tiff. Say, were you aware of anything dark, happening, which made you not want to be an actor and instead just a picture. Maybe you can ask her a question like that, and maybe she'll have some insight.
I don't know. I'd love to meet like Melanie messaged me privately just out of the blue a few months ago asking if how to get into Frightmare in the Falls. She said she would like to do that one. It's interesting she reached out to me because I guess I didn't know if I talked a lot about that, but she reached out to me about it. So obviously she's watching enough to know that I've been there.
Yeah,
So she reached out to me privately and said, can you get Tiffany and I booked that way you can meet us.
yeah,
So I'm like, I would love to. Um, but the plan is, I'm not going to write this in stone, but the plan is this is my last Frightmare in the Falls. There's no fault on the con itself. It's just the travel for it. But I'd love to meet Melanie and Tiffany. I'm I don't know what it would be like if I was at a con that Debbie Sue is at. Because I mean, there's so many things I could say to her right now, and especially Judy Aronson. There's so many things I could say, but I like to
yeah.
try to avoid those situations if I can,
Right, right.
because it's very, very tempting. Like I got fired from the hospital, and at the end of this year, if I haven't heard anything about my regional, and I doubt I will, I'm going to send a private message to uh, who was essentially my boss there and tell them. I said, you said that I was fired, not allowed on property except for medical purposes. Well, I'm going to inform them. You never asked me about going on there for medical purposes. So I'm going to let them know that if I get brought in there by ambulance, they're to turn me away. It doesn't matter. They're to turn me away. My body, my rules, I will sue them. This is just how it's going to be. This is how they want to play with me. It's how I'm going to play back. I'm doing, as of the week after this, I'll be doing 80 hours a week. Something those fuckers couldn't appreciate
Yeah.
because I was a part of this fucking clique, I guess. But nonetheless, it is what it is. And
Here's here's the question I ask you every year. I know you're busy working as a janitor and you're not fully invested in the show right now, but who's on your bucket list for the cult movie anniversaries in 25? Because I'll tell you my list like I always do.
off the top of my head, I've got nothing. I wouldn't mind getting somebody from Fright Night because I love that film. I wouldn't
Yes,
mind
I know a
getting
few
somebody.
people.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind getting somebody from After Hours. I love that film.
Get Clarence Felder on. Oh my God, he's a character. He's funny.
I've tried once or twice. I forgot about him, but I have tried since you pitched him. But it's just
You
people
have to
gotta
DM
get
you have to
back
DM
to
his
me.
wife, Chris Weatherhead. She's the one who fixed it up with us a few years ago. But she's great. Yeah, I mean for me, like I want to talk to Luciana Paluzzi, who was in my favorite James Bond movie, Thunderball. That's going to be 60 next year. Ken Primus, he's the African American guy in MASH who sings "Suicide is Painless." He's on Facebook. I found out. Patricia Crown, who was one of the cheerleaders in the Woody Allen movie Love and Death. It's a funny movie. It takes place in the Revolutionary War, and yet there's cheerleaders in one scene. And I think she was a cheerleader for a football team, or she was at least a Playboy centerfold at one point, one of the two. And I want to reach out to her. Tara Nutter, who was in one of my favorite slasher movies of 1980, Without Warning. I want to get her. Glenn Eaton from The Last Dragon. would be great. People like that. But I got so many people that I've talked to that you should talk to next year for anniversary stuff.
Yeah, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but those are a couple movies that I liked from that year and from '85 anyway. There'll probably be, I'll have to look through my lists and stuff like that. You know, we'll see. We'll see. I was wondering what you thought about, and this is something I spoke to you briefly about um, off of here, but I find it interesting because I actually did a Wikipedia search on conventions, and I think Comic Con started way back in the early 70s, and it was just a small little thing. And
Yeah.
now it's grew into this big thing, and you got a lot of the vendors and comic books, and now you got merchandise like figurines and stuff. And you got multiple conventions of different genres and whatnot. It used to be like comic books, Star Trek, and Star Wars got brought into it, and now you got horror film cons and whatnot. What I find interesting now, William Shatner, I'm not surprised because the Trekkie thing started very early on. I don't know how long William Shatner's been doing the conventions, but he's a big name guy that's been doing them for a while. But here's one thing I've been noticing, and I've been noticing it just within the last year or so, is that there's a lot of bigger name actors that are doing these. Like Chiller just booked Mickey Rourke, you know.
Yes.
You got
Yeah.
Sybil Shepherd just did her first one. Mira Sorvino's doing them. You got Richard Dreyfuss gonna be at Frightmare in the Falls. They did a big thing at I think it was Steel City Con with National Lampoon's Vacation, where they had Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Christy Brinkley, and a bunch of them there, the family truckster and whatnot.
Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of these people that 5 years ago you wouldn't see doing that. Like, I mean, Fan Expo, which I was considering, I had some considerations doing until John Cleese ended up having to cancel due to work commitments. But and John Cleese would have been my number one pick. But John Cleese doing one of these cons is something
Yeah.
I never heard of before. Or Bryce Dallas Howard
Yeah.
was at Fan Expo. I mean, she's still constantly working. She was in Argyle earlier this year, you know, or
Right. Hmm.
and she's in the Jurassic World movies. I mean, she's still quite active. And I noticed that Catherine Newton, who was in Freaky and Lisa Frankenstein and Abigail, she's doing these. And although Catherine Newton's not like an A-list actress, she's still out there, you know, she's out there a lot. And you're seeing these people booked at the conventions. And I'm not saying this is a negative, but what do you think the deal is with this new exposure or interest? I mean,
It's
John Cusack just got booked at Chiller.
yeah.
Molly
Well,
Ringwald, you know?
he started pre-pandemic, John Cusack, because Diane Franklin reunited with him in 2019. But yeah, it's just like anything, man. Once people recognize the money element, they're going to jump on the bandwagon. Um, yeah, when I was going in 2016 for the first time, um, I'd see people who were like once big, doing them and stuff, or people that only I thought I knew. Those were the kind of people I'd see at conventions. But now, yeah, I'm seeing all these A-listers and they're fucking charging anywhere from $100 to $400. It's gross and it's also frightening because I feel like that in the future, all A-list movie stars are going to be doing cons, and I don't think maybe the little stars will still probably be doing them, but I think the emphasis is going to be the bigger ones, and it's kind of sad if that happens. but yeah, back in the day, the Star Trek conventions had nobody at them. I mean, you'd go there and you wouldn't see hardly anybody, you know. And if you wanted to be in the business, you could get discovered at a convention back in the day. Ken Hall, the creature makeup artist, screenwriter, director who I've interviewed, he got discovered by Rick Baker at a convention in 1980. He hadn't won any of his Academy Awards yet, and he was very generous with his time and telling him, what he's got to do to get in the business and so forth. It seems like nobody's interested in that now. It's all fucking money making now. I mean, even the makeup guys seem to have a big ego, even though they're not really charging for autographs at the cons. They're just showing their display of what they do and what they can do, and then you give them something and they sign it for free, and then you go. But it doesn't seem like it's what it used to be, because the internet fucked it up for everybody, because now everybody wants to do makeup, everybody wants to act or direct and all that stuff. So I mean, I got into this really late, and it disappointed me once I realized all the stuff that the internet did that was evil. But of course, the internet has done a lot of good things as well. So yeah, I mean, I see it coming in the future that more A-listers are going to do cons, and it's probably going to drive the little ones out of business. But I hope that's not true.
I mean, I even noticed, and it just come through my head right now, Juliette Lewis is starting to do these. And
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, like 5 years ago, I don't think you would see that. And
No, no,
yeah, so it's and I'm not frowning on it,
yeah.
it's just I'm like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's face it, like Catherine Newton doesn't need to do them,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
think it's thrilling that she is doing them. I think it's thrilling that she is doing them. But I saw her, I think it was a Rube Morgue magazine, I think that was a magazine I had, and they had listed some people that's going to be at one of the cons, and Catherine Newton, I was like, wow, she's still actively working, like uh, you know, um, so I find that interesting a lot, and I don't like this label that, well, I guess they're not making money anymore, so they're doing the con. I'm kind of like, sometimes people, maybe they're not getting the offers they used to,
Yeah.
but this is still fun, and maybe somebody got in their ear about, you should try this. It could be fun, and this and that, and they go and they end up having fun. That can be the case. Some people go and they have a great time at it,
Yeah.
and some of these people may end up going and having a fantastic time. They might have a blast, and then it could be a good thing as well, you know.
Yeah, I saw someone making a big stink recently about how families are coming to cons now because I think someone got censored at a Q&A panel because of language that was being used. It's like, I've been doing these panels 20, 30 years. There never used to be families here. Why are there families here all of a sudden? And it's funny because I listened to Danielle Harris and Scout Taylor Compton's podcast, and they record their panels at cons sometimes, right? I'm like, wow, I have never heard any any panels like this at a con. I'm sure that they have a warning sign saying adults only or something when they do them, because oh man, they go hardcore just like they do when they're recording on Zoom or in the studio or whatever. Yeah.
Well, they're supposed to do their podcast, a live podcast at Frightmare in the Falls, and I think tickets are like $65.
Oh yeah, they
Um,
charge it. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't know if I'm gonna be there both nights or not.
Mhm.
So I can't just jump out and commit to it. Um, it might be interesting to do something like that, but I'm not committing to it right now. I know last year at Frightmare in the Falls was pretty interesting because um, I got to I got to see Ari Lehman perform with First Jason. And as much as I enjoyed watching him perform, I was kind of really there to see Blood Opera perform, and they were on first, and I met them through Lisa in 2017, and uh, and still connect actually. Let's see, I do have it. Got their CD.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Well, they were basically christened by George Romero.
Mhm.
George, because they sing a lot of songs associated with horror films and a lot of horror film dialogue. And they had met George Romero and they talked about their idea. And they said, it probably sounds like a dumb idea. And George Romero says, you got to do it. You got to do it. And because George Romero spent the last of his years in Toronto, and so they
Right.
had met him. So their music is really good. They did one called Fanboy that was supposed to be 13 Fanboy based, but they didn't get picked. And well, they said, well, you know what? That song is no longer for 13 Fanboy. They'll sing it for other stuff. And they have performed it before, but they're not going to advertise that movie. But that they weren't good enough to be part of it. It's like that, it's like I talk about clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no
Well, what
time for it.
well, like what I just told you about the Fredheads, the girls, they're in a big clique, it seems, and they get called out a lot by other horror fans and shit. So I'm not too worried. I'm sure their day will come. But whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, they always put on a good performance, and when I see them, and I'll probably it's not written in stone because I haven't seen anything posted, but I'll be surprised if I don't at least see them have a booth at Frightmare in the Falls. They always come with a hearse, so and they have it all set up, but yeah, they got their songs listed on the back and this and that. So I really enjoy watching them perform, come out in their costumes. I love Taya Munster with Night Chill. Um, I got to meet her in person at the last Horrorama I was at. So they do a great job, and she's very gothic like. So I got to meet some of these people, and some of them have been fun.
Mm.
And then I've had other people that were not so fun that ask for money and they don't pay it back. And I won't get into that.
So you said After Hours. Yeah, I love that movie. Any others?
After Hours, Fright Night, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
Really want another guest from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I saw the Nurse Bilbo. She did a podcast like a year or two ago. I'm going to see if I can try to get in touch with her or the Asian nurse who's briefly in there. I found her on Facebook. I'll try to get one of the two. And, because I've had the Muse Small on. Yeah, I remember you saying you reached out to her and she didn't reply back. She's like that. It took me a while to get her back in 2020, and of course Michael Berryman's been on, and people like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to get all the people that I reached out to years ago to come on in 2025 and just try them again because now I have a following and shit. So, I'll just give it a whirl. But I'll be pitching you a lot of people that I've talked to who have milestones coming up in 25.
Yeah, I'll have to think, Deep Red celebrating an anniversary. It'll be turning 50. I like that. But again, when you're dealing with Argento movies, it's hard to tell whether somebody can speak English or not, you
Well,
know?
if you like Inferno, I could recommend Lee McCloskey and Irene Irene Miracle. They're both a wonderful,
I
deep
have that here
people.
on Blu-ray. I like Inferno, yeah.
Yeah, they're both great people to talk to if you want to reach out to them.
I'm surprised I've got four people from Suspiria that I've had on the show, but Deep Red, I was so happy I got Daria Nicolodi before she passed because she originally turned me
Yeah.
down. So I was very lucky because I had met Lamberto Bava, whose English is not the best, but it was serviceable. But I met him at Horrorama one year, and due to that connection, that was what got her on. Because Daria was in Mario Bava's last movie, Shaw. So I was glad I got her when I did, and out of the seven movies she did for Argento, I think her best performance was in Deep Red.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I like Inferno, yes. But I remember the little kid that was in Deep Red and in Suspiria. He said yes to my podcast.
He didn't speak English, you said.
Didn't speak English. Yeah, like his
Yeah.
thing was being translated to me, and I was like, oh, you know. I mean, he seemed polite, but it was being translated to me in English, so you know, I can't do anything with that. But
Well,
um,
I don't know if you've ever seen Dawn of the Mummy,
I haven't.
1981. Yeah, it's like a mummy movie mixed in with an early 80s teen movie.
Yeah,
And Roy Scheider's widow is the star of it. I'm going to reach out to her this week and stuff to come on. I like bad horror movies from the early 80s like that. I've got some good ones coming up this week, even though it'll be a year and a half before this is out. I got the legendary Ace Mask from all the Jim Wynorski early movies, Chopping Mall, Night of This Earth, Transylvania Twist, Return of Swamp Thing. I love that guy. He finally said yes. 5 years ago, he turned me down. Um, I got Ron Fazio, who's the Toxic Avenger in part two, three, and four. I got George Bishop from Teen Vamp. He's like a novelist now. I got Perry Lorenz from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the pickup driver who saves Marilyn Burns at the end. You know, I got some good ones coming up that I'm pretty happy about.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've heard from a few that I'm I'm booking on here, and so we'll have to see how it goes in terms of. I mean, I'm sure I'll probably have Tracy Savage back on Boxing Day again. I'm looking forward to meeting her at Frightmare in the Falls. I'll probably have Nancy McLaughlin on again because we always just shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Um, there's people I always ask back on because uh I know they'll do it and they just like to come on.
Yeah, I used
But
to have a lot more of those people. I don't anymore. People who just like to come on to talk. It was so much easier to get people to do that in 2017, 18, 19. Now it's a little bit harder because now people are getting better management and they're being influenced by management or they want to get paid now, and all that crap, But I do have people who have been with me since day one who will still do it anyways, but just not as frequent. And I got people that I've met in the last few years, like Cindy Hines, who will come on anytime I ask her. So
Yeah, Cindy Hines will probably go through my rotation every year as well. Um, I made that nice connection, but Genevieve Rossi didn't get on this year, and I think she was just busy. I did get to meet her at Chiller though, so and she,
It's fun.
I gotta say, she looks even better in person. But
She did. I did four with Genevieve Rossi in the beginning, and after the last one, I was like, okay, she's done. Because the third one we did, we just talked about sex for like 80 minutes, right? And then I tried to sneak in a sex question at some point in the fourth one, and she steamrolled over it. I was like, okay, that means this is probably going to be the last one we do.
no,
Because I'm sure yeah, I'm
she
sure she
was open.
regretted it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, she was open to coming back on. It just didn't work out this year, but I'll reach out to her next year. Same with Leanne Curtis. She was open to coming back on. It just didn't get scheduled. So, and Leanne's gonna be at Chiller this fall, and I'm like, I think it would have been cool to meet her in person because like she's somebody I don't know what to talk to her about. It doesn't matter. She pretty much I just have to introduce the show and let her go off, and she's
Funny.
no shortage of things to say. She's always
It's
great.
funny. It's funny. People like her and Linnea, they grew up with older parents who were very classy and stuff, but yet they grew up to be ladies with no filter and do crazy things on screen and talk about crazy things. It's weird how that happens, because you would think that they would grow up to be just like their parents, because they grew up so proper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to go into?
Not really, but yeah, just go on YouTube, type in Tommy Kovac to listen to Splat from the Past, and this is Halloween October, so it's going to be a great month. It's already started off great. I had some good ones last week. I had Christopher Bradley from The Initiation, and I did my 2200th interview with Brian Bremer from Pumpkinhead, which we were supposed to do that this summer, and he kept putting it off because I guess he had some family issues and stuff. But he was a great interview when I had him for my 2200th interview. He was great and stuff. And yeah, just listen this month of October. It's going to be great and beyond. I can't wait till Christmas time comes. I'm going to see if Lewis Jackson is available this year. To talk about Christmas Evil because last year he was having some health issues. So yeah, that's pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, I have the initiation here on Blu-ray. I know you mentioned that to me the other night. I don't think I got back to you on that. Um, but yeah, that was at the end of the golden years of slashers, which was
Yes.
pretty much from 78 to 84, you know.
Yeah, that's the year it fizzled out, I think. There was a couple more in 85, including one I want to chronicle next year. There was this one called The Dark Power. Lash LaRue, the B cowboy star of the 40s and 50s, it was his last movie. He was an old man in this movie. And the guy who made it, oh, his name escapes me, but he's on Facebook. I'm going to reach out to him. I have his name written down on my list. But like, yeah, 84 is really the year it peaks. And then next thing you know, you have the teenagers in trouble movies, I call them. Fright Night, Return of the Living Dead, Chopping Mall, Night of the Demons, movies like that where teenagers are still trying to get laid, but then there's supernatural elements going on instead of getting slashed.
Yeah.
you know,
So I don't know. I'm gonna look and see what's coming up, and I'll make my decisions based on in and around that. But
awesome.
yeah. But anything else you want to plug and promote on here?
It is it. And I thank you so much, Greg, for allowing me to do this with you again. And we'll do it next year again. And of course,
Sure.
I'll have you on mine again next year as well. Have fun at Frightmare in the Falls. I know you're gonna have some funny stories about that when you come back, like you always do.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point now. I wish I started doing this when I first started going, but I didn't have the I didn't think of it back then, but I did take pictures back when I started going. But I think since 2021, I think I started videoing my trips because it's just fun when I'm working. I love to listen to some of this stuff and hear the sounds in the background because I love Toronto and and listen to stuff. Uh, I just got to kind of try to simmer it down in terms of spending money. But I am planning to meet Tracy Savage. She's the main reason I'm going to this one. Suzanne Snyder is definitely on my list to meet. Um, Richard Dreyfuss, I want to meet,
Yeah,
and Tom Savini, and I've met Danielle Harris before. I'm open to meeting her
me too.
again. Yeah,
So
boy, she.
Savini, you don't know what you're gonna get with him. He's either gonna be kind of cold and quiet, or he's gonna talk to you. I got both of those both times that I met him, and I got God 6 posters signed by him, and I have more, but I haven't had an opportunity to meet him again. You know.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to get him to sign my Friday the 13th, the final chapter Blu-ray. I might have my effects Blu-ray with me too, but I might just get the one thing signed. But
Mhm.
um I might even bring a box of elastics for him in case he wants to have an elastic war with somebody. He's known to do that. But Danielle Harris, she looks great, Um, when I met her last time, I got some pictures signed, and I went back and saw her again the next day because I found Halloween 4 on Blu-ray at the convention and I bought it and I thought I'm going to get her to sign it. Because if I got her to sign a Blu-ray, I think Halloween 4 is it. Um,
Get her on the podcast.
huh?
Get her on the podcast. Try. Give her your card.
I've given her my card. I'll try again, I'd like to get her, but I'm not getting Halloween 5 on Blu-ray. I really don't like that movie. Um so what I think I'll do is I'll get a picture this time. I'm sure she'll have a lot of great ones. Like I said, she grew up stunning, I'll tell you that. Um but those five I'm definitely aiming for, but there's others that time and money permitting. Christina Lease from Child Play 2, who she and uh, Alex Vincent canceled last time they were booked there, but I think that was the 2021 one, if I'm remembering correctly. So I don't know whether it was a COVID thing or whatnot, but I'm interested in her. I've met CJ Graham before and Warrington Gillette before. I've had Warrington Gillette on the show. I'm open to meeting them again. Gillette, at least, is very, very, very engaging. So you get a good experience with him. Um, but I don't know. Like they've signed my Blu-rays for those movies, so I'm kind of like, I don't like CJ Graham. I could probably find another picture from Jason Lives to get signed. I don't know what else Gillette would have there that I signed. I got pictures signed of him coming through the window at Amy, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. David Cadams, I'm open for. I've had him on the show before. Um, and Shawnee Smith from the Saw franchise. I'm kind of interested in. And time and money permitting, I'm open to Mark Patton from Elm Street 2. Um, uh, who's the Voorhees kid from Jaws?
Jeffrey Voorhees. Yeah,
Jeffrey
I've had him on.
Voorhees. Yeah, I haven't had him on. I'd like to get him on. Um, he's somebody in the zeitgeist for me, and maybe Rye Barrett from In a Violent Nature. So I don't know. I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I love the Thanksgiving movie. It's just I can't afford everybody. And
Thanksgiving movie that Lynn was in, and what's his name? Eli Roth directed it. Right? Is that the one you're talking about?
oh, Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah.
Eli Roth's gonna be there, and Ted Raimi's gonna be there. Sam Raimi can't had to postpone though. I thought Thanksgiving was really good, and if it was a smaller con, I'd be probably open to getting those autographs, you know? It's just with a con this size, I really got to look at who, like obviously Tracy Savage is top tier for me, you know? Um, so I've kind of made my list, but I did like Thanksgiving. It was a really decent horror film. One of the best that was done by Eli Roth, who's a hit and miss for me in terms of films he's directed, because a lot of times he's way too graphic. Um, so not big on that. This one
Yeah.
here was graphic too, but I had a lot more fun with Thanksgiving. So they got a lot of those cast members going to be there, and I'm not frowning on any of them. It's just I can't afford to meet everybody, and that's something I'm trying to avoid doing this time, is spending way too much money. So so I'm gonna
Have
try.
fun, have fun, and take pictures.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So I'm expected to have fun. It should be a lot of fun, and hopefully I'm not too financially strained when it's all over, and yeah, should be a lot of fun. And of course I look forward to seeing Lisa when I go to Toronto as well. So I always have fun connecting with her, and I don't know, I might see Aaron Noble while I'm there, and I might see Anik Karabkino lives in Toronto. I might want to see if she wants to connect when I'm there. Creepy Ghoul wants to do a day with me if possible, which I'm open to.
Yeah, I think Hina's making a movie right now or something. She told me because she was supposed to come on last week.
She's great when you get her. I really like her, and I had a lot of fun with her, and she was very complimentary to me, and she's very stunning. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, she was a pregnant zombie woman in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, which I like the George Romero one better, but this one was actually a worthwhile remake. I gotta say it.
12 or 15 people on from Dawn of the Dead because I love it so much. I mean, it's just,
I gotta get more people from it. I just haven't.
yeah, I'll
I gotta
I'll help
get
you with that. I'll
yeah,
help you with
because
that.
I really liked the mall atmosphere in that movie, you know. But the one that Inna was in was really good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was.
um, yeah, so I didn't mind that. And Sarah Polly is in it, and she's awesome. So if you get her on, she's great. And I might see too if Cindy Hines is around. She doesn't know whether she's going to make to Frightmare in the Falls or not. I would love to beat her, but I know she's not right in the city of Toronto. So because she's caregiver to her son, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I know she was at something recently. I forget what it was because Chris Alexander and Alec Chappell was there. So it was some kind of convention. So, um, and I know she's still connected with the other guy from the Brood,
Oh, Hindle.
Art Hindle, yeah. So I haven't had him on yet either, but
My
uh,
experience with him was good, but then after that thing when I had Donna Schiller on the first time, it's just I lost respect for the guy, which we don't need to get into. But um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, next time I come on, hopefully, you'll be able to see me. This computer's new,
it's
I feel
okay.
kind of. Yeah, I mean, I know my podcast is audio only, but just like, it would have been great for you to see my new bedroom in my own house,
That's
so
okay. There's always next year, so
always next
no,
year.
no harm, no foul, I mean, I know people that listen to this while they're driving, and if they have a long commute, you know, so it works, so
Yeah.
no harm, no foul. So it works out either way. But anyway, keep sending me people. I I'm hit or miss right now in terms of reaching out to people. It's been. I did hear from Deborah Lamb's going to come back on.
Good.
Yeah, but she's going on vacation about the same time I am, and so she wants to wait till November, and that's perfectly fine. We're both involved in the Witches of the Sand, which I got my pictures going to be in that. So, and
Well,
that one's
Kelly,
still being that one's still being made because Tony Martin is constantly doing updates for it. So, and it looks like it's going to be quite zany. So, so
Kelly Maroney's interested in coming on. She's not doing business with Joyner anymore, so she is interested in coming on. So fingers and toes crossed on that one.
I might try her again maybe next year. I don't know. I'd love to get Kelly on Zoom. I always like Kelly.
Mm.
Um, but let me see. Oh, another one who I reached out to was Terry McMinn.
Yeah.
Yep. And she said to reach out to her next year. She's busy with some stuff right now. I felt bad that she wasn't at Frightmare in the Falls last year. I don't know whether she was having health issues or whatnot. I don't know what the consensus was to that, but they had a bunch of them from Texas Chainsaw there, and I know
Yeah, I
Alan
don't know.
does. Yeah,
I don't know if Perry's going to want to do any more podcast interviews after me, but if he does, I'll send him your way.
sure. And I got to reach out to that fella um, that lives next door to the house. I got to reach out to
Um,
him as well.
Tim Tim Harden, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I got to do that because that sounds interesting. So yeah, but a lot of times when you and I converse, it's like, you know, like I'm not kidding. I'm either working
I
or
know.
sleeping most of the time.
I'm up all night drinking coffee and just getting weird and funny and shit. So I totally get it.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm still doing this. The people I work with are fine, They appreciate me a lot more than the other job I fucking had. But but uh but me doing 80 hours a week, that's my decision. Nobody's punishing me or anything like that. I just happen to be available and it's basically at same location. So uh, but I'll see how it goes. My brother thinks I'm going to be terribly exhausted. I probably will be, but I'll see how I can schedule these and make these happen. So I've got two this week booked. So, you know,
Fantastic.
yeah, I got Gloria uh
Ignacio.
Ignacio come. Yeah, I got her coming back on and we're going to talk about Phantom of the Paradise tomorrow. And I have Terrence Winkless.
Yep.
the director of the Nest. I was actually did a little phone call. He sent me his phone number, so I called him and we chatted. And it's kind of doing the same thing as Mel Damsky. He's back and forth between Vancouver and close to Vancouver in the States,
Yeah.
you know, doing the same thing. But he remembers Lisa fondly, and we're going to talk about the Nest. And so I'm looking forward to having him on. He was just celebrating his birthday.
Saab posted, I wished him happy birthday. Yeah, he was a part of HR Puffin stuff back in the day, and he's got stories about that. And,
Well, he
you
said
know,
to me, he
yeah,
said to me, he goes, I don't like telling people what my age is, but then he told me his age. I said, for the case of the podcast, we'll just say you're 39. Leave it at that. He kind of laughs.
kind of
You
splits,
know?
not HR Puffin stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah, just that and being roommates with John Carpenter and Dan O'Banion and stuff.
Yeah. So I got a few lined up, and so I'll see how it goes. So yeah.
Thanks,
So people
Greg.
can
And
find you on YouTube, Splat from the Past. Where else can they find you?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter X, places like that. All Tommy Kovac.
You ever think about putting your interviews on Anchor, Spotify?
I'm just terrified because I've heard stories about people when they talk about sex on the podcast, they get fined on Spotify or all those outlets and stuff. I'm a little
I've never had an issue.
well, because sex is not a big focus on your show, but on mine it can be, So I'm just playing it safe. But maybe someday, I'll relent. But right now,
I did it that way because I'm really nervous about
I know,
YouTube's like they pulled my Chrissy Krueger interview
I
because
know,
of misinformation on health, which
yeah,
was such fucking bullshit.
yeah,
I just asked her what the pandemic was like in her neck of the woods. Like,
stupid.
yeah, it was so fucking simple. Like, when considering some of the stuff that's on YouTube that shouldn't be there. So, I mean, my Chrissy Krueger interview's up on Spotify, so there's nothing offensive about it. So I'm kind of waiting on that. I don't think that anybody should have strikes. I mean, copyright strikes is one thing. I get it, but I don't think there should be strikes. If somebody wants to put a number one, I'm a full believer that if somebody don't want to listen to something, don't listen to it. I do think there is such a thing. You want to avoid slander on people and stuff like that. You know, I get it when there's complaints like that, but not that I've had that, but you get the point. But in terms of, I don't understand this whole three strikes you're out bullshit, and it's like, just let people do their thing. If there's a complaint, look into it, then leave it at that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I reached out to, I have my stuff on Anchor, and I got a Rumble account, but I don't have anything on there. I need to figure out whether I could put my audio interviews up there as well. So if I can figure that out, I'll do that as well. There's other avenues I'm looking to tap into, So Scotty McCoy had introduced me to all of this, and I gotta look into it. I gotta see where all he's got his show and see what I can do about that because I want to get my stuff out there on more platforms because like I said, I like YouTube, but I don't totally trust it,
Yeah.
especially with my stuff. I'm not censoring myself. And so definitely not dealing with assholes that are like, "Ah, I'm offended, I'm offended." Oh, go get a fucking life. So yeah, I don't get a lot of that, but like if I don't like something or don't like what somebody's saying, I just don't listen to them. So there.
Oh,
Yeah. But anyway, it was great having you come back on here, and we'll be in touch. And yeah, I'll post whatever stuff I can on my trip to Frightmare in the Falls. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. So yeah,
I'll, I'll talk to you later. Have a great night over there, and don't work too hard.
and I'll tell a certain somebody at Frightmare that you love her.
Tell Tracy Savage I love her, but I just wish she would, be a little bit more edgy during interviews. I didn't understand that. She's a retired journalist and she's got a grown kid. Wish she got to lose, you know.
Tracy's very professional, but I'm going to tell you, she's done my show on
Yeah.
Boxing Day, 5 times, and I'm gonna keep asking her back on. Um, she hasn't told me this. I'm just kind of reading it this way. I think she is tickled that I had a crush on her growing up, and I still find her attractive. I think she's tickled by that. Um, because I mean, I'm not being blatantly sexual or anything like that,
I
but
wasn't either. I'd make a few jokes here and there. I just wish that, she'd be herself and just instead of being a professional, prude, so
well,
to speak. That's all I can think of. Professional prude, I feel like she was being,
Well,
you know.
here's the thing. Like, a lot of women, whether they'll admit it or not, a lot of women like to know they still have it. Tracy definitely still has it, you know. She still looks great, you know,
Yeah.
and I think she loves hearing that. And I don't think she'd want to hear it from me if I was being gross about it,
No.
but I'm never gross about it. I'm pretty professional about it, and I think she likes that. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that's one of the things. Um, it's just like when anytime I connect with Lisa in Toronto, you know what, um, um, it always amazes me that she wanted to be a friend with me at all. You know, um, I know with Lisa, she's not big on dirty language, so when I'm around her, I don't use it. You know, I'm conscious of that. So, then I would love to meet Nancy McLaughlin. I think that'd be pretty cool. Now, if Lisa or Nancy did Frightmare in the Falls, I'd go back with them, you know, but I don't think Judy Aronson's going to have me at her table to assist her.
Okay, on that note, let's say goodnight, Greg. We've talked too much about Judy.
Oh,
All right.
I bet secretly, I bet Judy just loves me.
What are you doing
Anyway,
in there? What are you doing in there? Taking a shit. Remember word science?
why not? Why not? That's a text I often send to my coworker when I'm doing my overnight. Where are you at right now? I'm taking a shit, even if I'm not. I'm always going to send a remark like that. And she would respond back, I just cleaned the bathrooms. I said, well, you got to clean them again. I made a mess on the floor. Which is not true, but you know, I like to fuck with
Yeah.
people. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, you have yourself a good night and try to attend some cons next year.
Well, um,
I know one that's going to be at Frightmare in the Falls is just waiting to meet you again.
Greg.
Huh?
I said bye, Greg.
She wants to make you her little Chucky doll.
Raven. I'll give her the finger like she gives him the finger, like at the end of Child's Play 2. All right.
All right, you take care, man.
Take care.
All right, later.